Star Wars Tabletop Gaming is proudly supported by Gatekeeper Games, your key to gaming unplugged, a tabletop games store offering a friendly atmosphere for people to buy and play their games in the north of Fitzroy.
Welcome to Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, episode 23. In today's episode, we're going to have a look at the rules. Now, the rules were spoiled about a week ago, but they were pretty blurry to start with. But an anonymous source has managed to get his mate who works in distribution to take a few snaps and send them on. And now we have some pretty good quality pictures that you will soon see before you. In fact, let's bring up page 1 of the rules right now. So, my goal today is to go through the rules and not go through every single rule and how to play, because I'll be doing how to play videos later because it's a lot better when you can see the miniatures on the table. What I'm going to be doing is kind of bringing up rules that are unexpected or that are a little different to how I initially thought they were played, and no doubt how you initially thought they were played too. So, to start with, page 1, and page 2, I guess, so there's not much here. This is all how we know it worked. You've got your ranks, you've got your units, your issuing orders, you can pre-measure, as we already know, all that kind of stuff, so nothing revolutionary here. Interestingly, for those that don't understand how the priority works, when you both pick a command card that has the same number of pips, the person who has their hands on the, what's it called, the turn counter? Card revealed determine which player's priority. Priority determined. If both cards have the same number of pips, the player who has the round counter, yeah, there you go, rolls a red defense die. If the result on the roll is a block, that player has priority. So essentially, if you have the turn counter, which you're going to have 50% of the game, there's a higher chance that you will get priority, because I think there's 4 out of sides on that red dice, or maybe 3 out of 6 sides. Well, it must be 4, otherwise it'd just be 50-50, wouldn't it? Interesting. Let's have a look. Here we go. So there you go. So it's 50-50. So it doesn't actually matter who rolls it or who has the turn counter. When pips come up and they're the same, there is a 50-50 on who exactly is going to be getting priority. So there we go. Problem solved. Mystery solved, I should say. So that's what happens with that. You've got issue ordings, determining eligible units, all that kind of stuff we already had a fair idea on. Let's go on to page 3 and 4. So the activation phase is pretty simple. Nothing crazy there. The commander token is interesting. So if all of a player's commanders were defeated, starting with the player who has priority, they must promote a unit leader from one of their trooper units to be a commander, placing the commander token in the play area near that miniature. Then that unit's original order token is discarded, and a command order token is placed on that unit's card. So essentially, your trooper leader, your sergeant, or whatever you want to call them within that unit, is now your leader. That whole unit is your leader, essentially. The unit now has the unit read, now has the rank of commander, and activates using a commander order token. If a player has no trooper units remaining when they lose their last commander, and pay attention here, they cannot choose a new commander and can no longer play command cards. That's huge. So if you've decided to take 2 ATSTs or 2 airspeeders, and you've only got your 3 troops choices, if your opponent manages to knock all of them out and take out your commander, you're no longer playing orders, and orders are a huge part of the game. Notably, I mean, Luke's and Vader's orders revolve around themselves a lot. So once that leader's dead, having a trooper unit as your leader isn't fantastic, but like not being able to give orders at all seems like a huge disadvantage. So you definitely want to have enough troops to take over and make sure that you're not losing out on command cards entirely if Luke or Vader bite the dust, or future leaders in the future like Leia and Veers. All right, so winning the game also. So for winning the game, and I don't know if it's here, at the end of the game, if both players have an equal number of victory tokens, players total the point cost of their opponent's destroyed units. Destroyed units. So, focus fire is going to be big. So, there's not that many objective points to be won in different games. So, I think there's going to be quite a few cases where you do actually have the same amount of objective points. So, make sure that when you're killing stuff, you're focusing on one unit. Because if you kill, 3 out of 4 stormtroopers in a unit, you don't get the points towards winning the battle. So make sure you do kill off that last stormtrooper. Focus fire when it's necessary. Don't just spread your wounds around, because if the objectives points are the same at the end of the battle, that's really going to disadvantage you. So, good to know, little points. That's what this video is all about, is to make you understand kind of the niche rules of Legion, because there's a few little tricky ones. Alright, trooper movement, nothing crazy. You can, of course, do partial movement, as we suspected, and unit cohesion. It's actually pretty big, because it's that one move, what are we calling them? Tool, movement tool. There you go, one speed movement tool that has cohesion, and that thing's like 3 inches long, and you can put them on the very tip of it. So unit cohesion is like 4 inches, which is epic and insane. But I don't know, do you want to spread them out that much? There's no real reason to, because there's no blast templates, which is a wonderful mechanic, because blast templates were a pain in the butt that just slowed down games. So I'm very okay with that, and unit cohesion seems super flexible. Alright, let's go on to 5 and 6. Here we go, vehicle movement. Now things get interesting. So, they can reverse, which is cool. Vehicles can reverse, and they don't have to move the entire movement unless it's a compulsory move. So you can do your partial moves. You've also got your pivot, which counts as a move order, where you can go up to 90 degrees, or if you've got wedge, you can go up to 360, which is very cool. Overlapping. So this is interesting. A player cannot move their unit leader in such a way that it moves through a ground vehicle miniature. However, a player's movement tool can overlap a ground vehicle if they are performing a partial move to move near, but not through a vehicle. So you can use vehicles to block movement, essentially, which is kind of cool, especially when we see some bigger vehicles. Well, I guess the ATST is pretty big. So if you put that in front of a trooper unit, they can't move forward. They've got to try and go around you, because they're certainly not going to want to be assaulting you. A player can move their unit leader through trooper minis. That's interesting as well. So if you've got an enemy squad right in front of you, but you need to get past them to capture an objective, go for it. You can just run right on through them. Can move their unit through, but you can't end on top of them. So keep that in mind. Right, what else we got? Attack actions. That's all pretty standard and what we expected. Some interesting stuff about weapons that we'll get into a little later. Nothing crazy. We all know how that works. We've all seen the demo videos. Hopefully, if you haven't, go and watch them. They're probably the general games one out of GateCon is the best one that you want to watch. But I'll certainly be having ones up soon that'll show you exactly how each little turn or each little phase, each action, I guess, works. Short videos. It'll be very specific to that rule, just so you can master it and quickly look it up during a game if you're confused. So we'll move on from them. Aim actions, nothing crazy. Dodge actions, we know how that all works. Weapons. Alright, cool. So you've got your weapons, you've got your weapon keywords. That's all fine. Fixed front, we all know how that works with vehicles. Melee, very good. Interestingly, if you don't have a melee weapon, you can't charge into melee. So speeder bikes, who only have a holdout blaster, from what I understand, cannot actually charge into melee and keep units engaged and tied up, which is a cool little mechanic, because it would have been an absolute pain in the butt to have a unit that fast. Same with the snow speeder. Have a unit that fast get into the background and just tie units up and stop them from shooting. Would have been a horrible play experience. So well done, FFG. Well thought out. So your speeder bikes are not going to be charging down speeder style into units and mowing them down, but that's for the best. So starting a melee, everyone pretty much just moves in and gets involved if they've got a melee weapon. Engaged, we have seen how this works previously, but I'll quickly go over it because it's pretty interesting. So when you're engaged, a trooper unit just trooper units, vehicles are not included in this. Trooper units cannot perform ranged attacks, and they cannot be targeted by ranged attacks. So that's pretty cool, and you cannot perform moves except to withdraw. So if you want to get out of that engagement, out of that melee, you can, but you have to spend both of your activations, and the only thing you can do in your activation is to move speed 1 away from the engagement. So that's cool. Cool little mechanic. It's important that it's there to get you out of melees that are very disadvantageous to you, and to then let the rest of your army shoot them up, I guess. Means Vader's not going to charge in, and it's just like that unit's wiped. You may as well just count it out. You can get him out of there. So cover, look, that's pretty much you behind cover. You're getting blocks from it. There's light, there's heavy. We may see further expanded rules about cover in the online PDF that we're told is coming, and we know it's coming because it's mentioned in the terrain section. The terrain rules in this rule supplement we have, or this rule book, whatever you want to call it, are very light on and will be covered further online. So keep that in mind. There are more rules coming. I don't believe they'll add too much to the game mechanics themselves, maybe just that terrain area. Alright, Speeder 1. You've got the keywords, armor, charge, cover 1, all of that kind of stuff. That's fine. Speeder 1's interesting. To perform a compulsory move, the unit performs a full move as its maximum speed, as I said before. And we'll look at how repulsor vehicles and those speeder vehicles kind of work with displacement a little later on. Alright, actions. So you've got your recover action, which is one that hasn't really been mentioned in much of the demos. That's essentially to perform a recover action, a player removes all suppression tokens, so that's really important, and readies all of the unit's exhausted upgrade cards. So if you've got a Stormtrooper unit with I think it's a H-12 or HH-12 rocket launcher, and you fired it, so you need to bring that back up, but you also have a couple of suppression tokens, you do one recover action, it gets rid of those suppression tokens and readies your rocket launcher. So that's pretty cool. It just resembles those troops just taking a tactical pause to do what needs to be done, essentially, so I really like that. The standby action, as I commented on one of the Beast of War YouTube videos, cannot be done with vehicles. It can only be done by troopers, and essentially that's them just getting ready to shoot anything or move away from anything that comes near them, and gives you a bit of flexibility. Note that the unit with a standby token, if it gains a suppression, it loses its standby token, which is really cool. So let's say a Rebel Trooper unit is behind cover and it's taken a standby token, and you want to essentially make them duck their head so you can move forward. You get your ATST to fire at them from range 4. That gets them to duck their heads, puts a suppression token on them, and now your Stormtroopers are free to move up without having to worry about being shot by that Rebel Trooper unit. Just brings some tactics and strategy into it that kind of resemble, real-life battle of shoot to suppress, move forward, and engage decisively. So I really like that. That's cool. I like the whole standby system. Everything about it makes me happy. Look, you got line of sight, which is good. Things that aren't visible can't be killed, which is always good in a game. You've got the attack pool. All right, you are able to shoot at different units, which is good. So we've got that confirmed. That's attacking multiple units, you can see there, but it has to be different weapons. So you can't shoot, some of your, whatever the Rebel weapons are, I can't remember right now, but you can't shoot half of your regular Rebel Trooper weapons at one unit and half at the others to kind of ridiculously spread out suppression tokens. But having a special weapon in that unit does mean you can shoot at 2 different targets, which I think is going to be really powerful in a lot of situations, because that one unit is now putting out double the amount of suppression tokens. And suppression, people, will be huge. Right, vehicle movement, ground vehicles. So you can see there it can reverse at speed 1, and then you've got this whole displacement idea. So during a move, a ground vehicle mini can move through but cannot end its movement on top of repulsive vehicle minis. Yep, very good, so you can't move your ATSD to stomp down an airspeeder. Additionally, a ground vehicle mini can move through trooper minis if those minis are not engaged. Interesting, so if they're engaged, they're blocking the area. If a ground vehicle mini moves in such a way that it would overlap one or more trooper minis as it moves along the movement tool, any trooper minis that it moves through are displaced. A displaced mini is set aside so the vehicle mini can perform its move action. Then the player who did not move the vehicle mini places all of their displaced minis back in the battlefield. So essentially you're just putting your troopers back where you want them. Displaced minis must be placed following normal cohesion rules, cannot be placed in base contact with enemy miniatures. If a unit leader is displaced, that mini is placed within range 1 of its original position. When one or more minis in a unit are displaced, that unit gains 1 suppression token. Very cool. So you can just chart, let's say you have 3 ATRTs, you're running them just with flame, throwers, or whatever they're called, and you just run them through enemy units and just spread suppression tokens all over the place. If you can run them through like 2 different units each, I don't know, like you're putting out 6 suppression, it gets ridiculous. So I think there's going to be some serious displacement suppression shenanigans with ATRTs, and it encourages you, certainly, to make sure that you're not putting your trooper units too close together so that both of them can't be displaced in one cheeky ATRT move. Right, repulsive vehicles. During a move action, a repulsor vehicle mini can move through all other minis. Makes sense, including ground vehicle minis. Obviously, they're flying over the top. If a repulsor vehicle mini moves in such a way that the movement tool would overlap minis in other units, the player can hold the movement tool above the minis. Yep, sure. A repulsor vehicle's mini's final position after performing a move cannot overlap other minis unless it is performing a compulsory move. So, compulsory move, do whatever you got to do, but if you then want to move after that again, you've got to be careful that you don't overlap your enemy, because you just can't. Or friendly either. So moving them, you can almost, if you're facing a repulsive vehicle, place your troops in a way that blocks it, makes it move in certain ways. So just keep that in mind. A repulsive vehicle mini's final position after performing a move cannot overlap other minis unless it's performing a compulsory move. Yep. Blah, blah, blah. If it does, those troopers' minis are displaced. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So you can use your compulsory move with your airspeeder or with your speeder bikes to displace units as well, which is nice. All right, vehicle damage. This is exactly how this works. We saw this a while ago, but it was a bit dodgy. It was like it was a translation from French or Spanish, I think. So we'll go through it just very quickly. So we have this thing called resilience, which is less than the vehicle's main health, 4 for the AT-AT, and I think it's 8 for the AT-ST. Now, when that resilience threshold is reached with the amount of wounds your vehicle takes, the following happens. So essentially, you roll a red defense dice and suffer one of the results. If the result is a block, the mini is damaged and gains a damaged token. When a player activates a damaged unit, they roll a white defense die. If the result is a blank, the vehicle performs one fewer action. So it's slowing you down. It means you're probably not going to be moving very far, or you're not going to be shooting. One or the other. So hope your vehicle's where it needs to be for that. If the result is a blank, so that's a 2 out of 4 chance, the mini is disabled and gains a disable token. A unit that is disabled cannot reverse and must spend 2 actions to perform a single move. So that's definitely locking you down. Now, then it gets real bad. So if the result is a defense surge, which is that 1 in 6 potential, one of the mini's weapons is destroyed. The player's opponent chooses a weapon. So that means that's good for your the opponent, or the person who's wounding the vehicle gets to choose the weapon that's destroyed. So against AT-STs and airspeeders, that's going to be super powerful. The player's opponent chooses a weapon and places weapon destroyed token on the corresponding card, or obviously the unit card if it's on the unit card. That weapon cannot be used. So powerful, so good. It can really shut things down. So good to see resilience. Good to see vehicles aren't this invincible thing until they lose their last wound. That's a mechanic that we've seen recently in a bunch of different games, and one that I definitely appreciate. Now, suppression is interesting. So it actually works a little differently to how we suspected. So we'll go through this quite deliberately. So each trooper unit has a courage value. Yep, we know that. A unit with a number of suppression tokens equal to or exceeding its courage value is suppressed. So a trooper unit who gets 1 suppression token is suppressed. Now, you have to be hit, that's fine. Removing suppression, we'll get into that in a minute. I just want to look at panic very quickly. So trooper units that endure too much suppression can lose their nerve entirely and become panic. After a unit rallies, if it has a number of suppression tokens equal to or exceeding twice its courage value, it becomes panicked. Okay, so a trooper unit with a courage value of 1 is panicking with only 2 suppression tokens on it. Very interesting. Now, it does have the chance to rally before that happens, but just think that AT-ST mortar, if it hits and puts 1 suppression token because of its hit, and also its extra suppression token, you're panicking units from just 1 mortar. Very nice. But there is a chance to rally. So after a unit that has suppression tokens activates, before it performs any actions, it must rally. To rally, a player rolls 1 white defense dice for each suppression token. So if it has 2, you're rolling 2 white defense dice. Then 1 suppression token is removed for that unit for each block and defense surge result. Very good. If after this, the unit has fewer suppression tokens than its courage value, it is no longer suppressed and can just do whatever it wants fine. So that's really good. So there is a chance within your turn to actually get rid of all the suppression tokens on a unit if you roll well enough. Then of course you've got your recover action and all kinds of ways to get through it. So lots of ways to put it on and have an effect, lots of ways to get it off. So very interactive. I think the suppression interactions are great, and I look forward to seeing how they play out on the tabletop. But I think that mortar is going to be a must for all AT-STs. So keep that in mind. When you're putting your models together, put a mortar on that thing. Alright, lots of other stuff. You got points, factions, upgrades, blah blah blah. Nothing overly exciting. We do have confirmed that a unit cannot equip more than one copy of the same upgrade card, so we do not have to worry about ATSTs with 3 mortars. Just causing shenanigans. It won't happen. Now we go into upgrade cards, troop upgrades, heavy weapons, personnel. Just quickly with personnel. Personnel upgrade cards can be used to add specialists, such as medics and engineers to units, or simply to bolster a unit's ranks. So right now with those stormtroopers, we've obviously just seen the extra stormtrooper you can chuck on, but in the future, we're going to see medics and engineers that we can put in units. So cool. Whether they'll cross over different units, I guess they will. So exciting. Exciting stuff. So much potential there. And I didn't see that coming and didn't know about that, so that's really cool. Weapons upgrades. Catch this. So, some upgrade cards feature the hardpoint, the weapon one, or the grenade icon. These are weapon upgrades. Each mini in the unit may use the equipped weapon upgrade when attacking the enemy. So, your Stormtrooper unit that's taken impact grenades or concussion grenades, whichever, those black dice, can each use that grenade when they're within range 1. Now, we're going to have to confirm that with a fact, but that's the way it reads to me. Let me know in the comments if you read that differently. But I'll read it again. Each mini in the unit may use the equipped weapon upgrade when attacking the enemy. That is insane. So your storm for 5 points at range 1, you've just upgraded your stormtroopers from white dice to black. And if you're throwing them at a vehicle, it'll still only be impact 1. All right, sweet. It won't be impact 1 for every single one of your minis. But going from white to black dice is insane. So stormtrooper units, you will be taking grenade upgrades every single time. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, so you've got exhausting upgrades, free card actions. We pretty much know how all that works. Ion tokens. When a unit activates, if it has 1 or more ion tokens, it loses 1 action for each ion token. Very cool. So with 2 ion cannons, or whatever they're called, those ion things the rebel units get, you can shut down an ATST, which is 2 ion tokens. So good. Definitely going to be a tactic running bulk ion, because I dare say every single Imperial army will be running an ATST. Counter the meta, people. Counter the meta. Then we go into the battle decks and deployments and objectives, conditions, all of that good stuff. The weird, crazy way of how it works from the left. I'm not going to go deeply into that because I want to do that when we have it in front of us to see how that works as it's playing out, because it's just strange. It seems really counterintuitive, but I don't want to discuss that hugely there. So that is the rule booklet that we have. Now we know there's a further PDF coming, because if we look at terrain and elevation, it says the rules for playing with custom terrain can be found in the online rules reference. Additionally, the online rules reference provides players with specific movement rules for ascending and descending vertical terrain. Cool. So we know there's an online rules reference coming. We were meant to get it a couple of weeks ago, but FFG on Twitter just decided they changed their mind and won't release it after telling us they would. Devastating. But essentially, the online rules reference will go into more complexity in regards to terrain, by the looks of it, and perhaps more complexity in other areas of the game, and will no doubt supersede this paper copy of the rules. So that's good. It means, I dare say it'll be free, because that's how FFG roll. Of course it will. And it means they'll be able to update it whenever they want to change things if certain units are becoming too powerful in the meta, and just control their rules and keep them really tight and fix things super easily. So we won't have the rule ambiguities that we have in some other games that I just don't need to mention, because I think you know what I'm talking about. So there we go. So that's the rules of Legion. We'll be doing playthrough videos soon. It's not long now until we get our hands on our demo copy. It's so close. We're certainly getting it before the 8th of March, which is awesome. In fact, I'm going to be on the 3rd of March. I'm going to be doing demos at Gatekeeper Games. More to come on that later. Check out our Facebook group for information on that. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've learned something about the rules that you didn't know previously. We'll see you next time. Until then, may the Force be with you.